Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we're live now.
Well, Brian was able to. We are live now.
Mhm.
I've emailed it to her and texted it to her. Okay. She's not
Did you
responding to
send
me.
it to her on our phone?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead. It is 6:10. Latonya, if you would please, you're going to establish a quorum. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the April 14th, 2026 Coastal High School Board of Directors meeting. And if you will,
Chair Rita Zeppolito,
present.
Vice Chair Christy Evans,
Present?
Secretary Latanya Goodson, myself, Secretary,
Oh, sorry,
the
Treasurer.
Treasurer Nancy Poole, Dr. Suzanne Horn, Grant Ludman,
Present.
Jill Narestein,
Present.
Clay Piaski,
Yes.
Piaski, I do. And Emily Willis.
Very good. Thank you for that. All right, oh, great.
And there was
Janara has
on,
just
yes.
joined.
Okay.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your patience with us, with our technical difficulties. So, okay, welcome everyone. We have many people to welcome to the meeting this evening. And thank you always to our board members for your time and dedication to the school. I would like to welcome, we have with us Janara Noel, who's with us from Veris. We have Mary Allison Caudell, Turner Caudell. Welcome Wes Olson with Raymond James, his first visit to the new building. Yay, we're welcome to have you here. And Doug Balma with Balma USA. And Dr. Brian Carpenter is online with us. Hey, Dr. Carpenter. And then our
Kim Lane too from Veris.
Kim Lane from Veris, thank you. And then Chuck Walker, who is our technical support. So, everyone, thank you for joining with us this evening. I'll start with the mission statement. Coastal High School's mission is to engage students in authentic project-based learning that will improve academic achievement, critical and creative thinking, and awareness of their leadership roles in our community and environment. The board vision statement, the purpose of the board of Coastal High School is to ensure that the school is achieving the outcomes from which the school was chartered, while operating within the parameters of the charter. Very good. FOIA compliance, thank you for posting the agenda 24 hours in advance on the door and on the website. Public comment is the next item on the agenda. There is no one signed up for public comment this evening. Item 5, agenda approval. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Grant, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Please, a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Very good, the motion carries. Great. Next item on the agenda are the minutes from the special called meeting on March 28, 2026. Those are in your packet and are available on the Dropbox. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from that meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Christie? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Very good. The motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have reported any unique to CHS correspondence with the authorizer. During the week, of last week, I forwarded you several emails. On April 7th, we had a meeting with Limestone Charter Association regarding an authorizer transition. They were notified that LCA would be closed effective April 15th and provided directions to the board of directors and to the school staff on any necessary steps that we needed to take as well. On April 8th, we received correspondence from South Carolina Public Charter School District, and we attended a webinar with updated information on items that the school would need to complete to continue our transition to the South Carolina Public Charter School District. They shared the webinar with us, and I have forwarded that to you as well. And then soon we'll be meeting with John S. Payne, who's our board relations liaison with the Public Charter School District. So we look forward to speaking with him and working with the charter school district moving forward. Are there any questions about that item on the agenda? Very good. Next item on the agenda are the financial report for February. And Veris is here to share the information with us. That's also in your packet. How are you this evening? Welcome. Welcome.
Hi there, good evening. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Also, I wasn't sure how much of that was me versus you guys. So glad we got that sorted.
Yes, yes.
Now, I also have on the agenda, on my internal agenda, I have the February financial reports, and I also have slated to do a budget reading for the FY27 budget. I don't have the itinerary, so I just want to make sure that was on the agenda as well before I roll one into the other.
Do we need to add that to the agenda, Mary Allison? I'm sorry. Jannar, can you repeat that, the budget reading?
The first reading for the FY27 draft
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
We'll have
That
to
is
do
not
at
on the
least
agenda.
reading and get approved, yep.
I think you can have that under the financial report.
Okay.
Just incorporate that, and y'all don't have to have a certain number of readings anyway, so I think
Okay.
it's fine to go ahead and have that presented.
Okay, and will we make a motion to adjust, or we're just having the first reading?
You're just having the first reading, so
Okay.
I think
Sounds good.
you're fine to move forward with that.
All right, you are perfect to move forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Let's see, let me get to make sure I have sharing permissions on here. And we will do,
Yeah, can the volume go up a little bit there?
I'm not sure.
Okay, for those who are following along, it should be reflecting on the screen, the reports for February. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit because it's always a little tiny. How does that look? Is that gonna be legible once I kind of get into more of the, yeah, you guys can actually see, like, is that legible for everybody?
Just give us 1 second.
Yes, we are working on technical challenges. That's the word.
There we go.
There we go. Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so we have kind of like our summary pieces that we'll get into a little bit more of the detail as we kind of work our way through the reports, but you can see on here just kind of some high-level trend analysis as far as for the month of February, as well as fiscal year-to-date when it comes to overall revenue, operating expenses, and net income. We also have some kind of key metrics on here. I kind of did an introduction for those since this format is a little different than what you were getting at the beginning of the year. But these reports, this formatting looks the same as we kind of looked at last month. I think you guys had some good feedback as it relates there. So if we start taking a look at some of the metrics as we get our way down into looking at the balance sheet, you can kind of see some of the trend analysis for your revenue. You have your local funding, your base funding, state funding, as well as any federal funds. And then we also have here kind of like a visual representation for this purple line is essentially what your budgeted surplus is. And so here you can see with the blue line kind of where that net income is kind of trending year to date through February. So you can see you kind of crossed over past that budgeted surplus onto net income when you got into the month of February. You've been trending in the right direction. So you can kind of see that kind of cross over that line. Same as far as the debt coverage ratio. We started tracking that more so by month in the month of October so that we could run the reports and see that. And you can see the purple line again is what your target is. That blue line is where you are currently. So even taking a look at February, you can kind of see where that target debt service ratio is versus where it is annualized. Same thing for days cash on hand. Purple line is your target, blue line is where you are currently, and that just kind of helps you give a visual on where you are as far as your debt covenants. Going into your statement of financial position for the last 2 months, you can see here that just looking at your total bank account, you have in the month of February around 1.3 million versus the 1.2 that was in there during the month of January. You also can see that other current assets, and that's going to be a number of different categories, have gone down to 278,791 versus the 292,344. Biggest kind of proponents there are going to be receiving some actual funds from the authorizer as it relates to claims. So you can kind of see that receivable number go down, as well as some adjustments made for prepaids. We have your fixed assets, which are going to still hold constant at that 13,100,000 currently for total fixed assets. And then there is a standing security deposit that is related to benefits sitting on the books. So you can see that the month of February, total assets come to around 14.8 million versus the 14.7 that you saw in the month of January. Largest delta for that is definitely related to your cash balances. Going down and taking a look into your liabilities, total accounts payable as of the end of February was at around 20,000 versus $143 in January, and usually that's a lot of times just the timing difference based off of when bills come in versus when payments go out, looking at that end of the month cutoff. Credit cards, where the Truist credit cards, the liability for them for the month of February is currently sitting at 5,888 versus the 7,000 for the month of January. And then we have other current liabilities, and those are things related to deferred revenues, standing payroll accruals, money that'll be due back to the state. Those bills, I believe, actually are kind of rolling out votes this month for items that weren't going to be carried over as reflected in the audit, and so now the state's probably looking for those funds, so we should see a shift in that, likely with April. And then we have retirement liabilities. So your total other current liabilities, pretty much for the most part, nominal change there. As far as total current liabilities, you can see that the difference is mostly tied to accounts payable. That increased to 146,000 versus the 126 for the month of January. Going into long-term liabilities, those balances through February are holding at the 12.6 million. So that will bring total liabilities in the month of February to 12,797,000, around $20,000 more, obviously related to accounts payable, as I mentioned before, versus what you were seeing in the month of January. So going into off of the balance sheet and into your statement of revenue and expenditures, I really kind of like to look at that from a perspective as it relates to the budget, because that's just, how are we doing versus how we plan to be doing. So if I kind of scoot down in here to where we're looking at a budget to actual analysis. Let me skip on down a few more pages. Okay. So you can kind of see your year-to-date actuals versus your year-to-date budget, and then you can see your full year budget and your year-to-date versus your full year. So taking a look at, we're looking at through the month of February, so we are about 8 months of our way through the year. Oh, where's my screen here? So if we're about 8 months of the way through the year, we're at about 67% of the way through there. Now, as you can see, there's lots of green, which is good. In the revenue section, if we take a look at a lot of these different line items in our local funding, and those are things related to interest income, the school store, any type of student fees. Right now, your year-to-date actuals for local income are currently, and this is through the month of February, sitting at 168,000, almost 169. And the full year budget for there was going to be related, was 92,000. So definitely kind of overperforming in there. Obviously, some of the big components, you can see that the school store related to pupil activities is overperforming based off of what was originally budgeted, as well as there is a large amount sitting in other income that only $500 was budgeted there. Let me go see if I can take a look and see. I can't remember what that was. What was the cause of that? Because that's definitely a large swing. Full year budget of 500, and now there's currently 52,000 sitting in there. So I just want to just be able to kind of speak to that. So bear with me just a second here. When I get to that screen. All right, so sorry, my screen's spinning on me here. Okay. So there's a large amount, I think, that is currently sitting in unknown income that we need to get some coding for. That kind of dates back into November. So we'll need to dig into that. It looks like we've gotten some of the clarity to reclass some of those, but there's still some deposits that are getting in there that we just need to get some clarity on. And some of that is probably tied to some debt service as well, because it looks like there was 2 large deposits around like December that we need to get some documentation for. So there might be a shift of at least probably 40,000 coming out of here. I think that probably needs to get reclassed elsewhere. And I think we're working with Sherry to get that access so that we can get that reconciled. Going into base funding was for the full year was budgeted at around 3.1, almost 3.2 million. Year to date through February, we're at around 2.3, so we're at 74%. So we're definitely trending ahead of what was budgeted, likely due to enrollment, since that is the main driver for your base funding. Taking a look at your state funding in total, you can see that state funding is year to date is around 24, almost 25,000. Full year budget is 27,000. So we're trending right on time with a lot of the state revenue pieces. Some of them are usually just kind of pass-throughs, like teacher supply funds. Let's see, we didn't have anything necessarily budgeted for that because that's normally just a pass-through for teachers, but you can kind of see some of these categories, like refurbishment of science kits is a nominal amount. We have some EEDA supplies and materials. Actually, we have 2 different revenue categories for teacher supplies, so they must have switched our funding category there. So that probably needs to be consolidated, looking at these 2 numbers here. Going down and taking a look at the federal funding full year budget, we're almost fully expended, which is exciting because a lot of the federal money is usually money that the school has to pay out and then get reimbursed for. The full year budget for federal funds was around $73,500. Currently, year to date through February, that number is $71,807. So those funds are almost fully expended through the month of February, which is great. And so taking a look at our personnel related costs, we can see here total personnel, and that's everything related to from salaries to benefits to retirement to taxes. All in year to date actuals is sitting at around 1.3, almost 1.4 million. And that is on a full year budget of around 1.8. So we're about 74% of the way through the budget there. Now there has, I think, been some adjustments kind of made as far as personnel. Some of that should kind of level itself out, but honestly with the increase in the base funding tied to the students, I'm not necessarily surprised that that personnel cost is also almost running the same kind of run rate as far as 74% as far as the base. Contracted services year to date is sitting at around 208,000 through the month of February, and our full operations sitting at around 48,000 year-to-date. The budget for there was 297. And then we have utilities sitting at 62,000, we're at 48,000, so coming a little bit higher there. And we can just kind of see overall, like from a macro level, like how those are all impacting the facility budget overall. If we take a look at other expenses, we are about at 76% of the way through our $23,000 budget. Year-to-date actuals are currently sitting at around 18,000. I think there was a question that Sherry and I did look at. As far as last month was concerned, there were definitely, I believe, some merchant fees, probably with increased costs associated with the school store that didn't necessarily get included. So like, even though the dollars themselves are small, like just looking at the percentage wise, that definitely was one of the drivers there. And then you can see that pupil related activities is currently year-to-date sitting at around 65,000. And that is on a $41,000 budget. I know we've had some conversations before on a lot of these are tied to athletics. So there's definitely some increased costs there that we try to do a more conservative job of looking at when looking at the FY27 budget. So down here, you can kind of see once we take into a consideration any of the debt service pieces. Right now, we're just talking about the interest only payments as it relates to debt service. We can see all in our total net income year-to-date through February is $516,945. Our total budgeted surplus was sitting at 122. So we're at 421% of that budget. And obviously there were definitely some conservative measures taking in the budget that now we kind of have some better actual pieces. We can kind of tie those down a little bit better, and we can talk about that when we kind of get into some of the FY27 budget draft kind of nuts and bolts. But before I do that, I want to pause and allow open questions, commentary, anything you guys might want to talk about or visit as far as the February financial statement.
Anyone have questions? Nancy or Suzanne, do you have any questions? No? Okay.
No, I don't have any questions. Okay. All right, so with that being said, the second part of the financial reporting component is going to be related to the FY27 draft budget. I will kind of go through here. I know it seems like we're kind of putting this piece on and you guys may not have had the opportunity to fully look at and digest it. So please, by all means, feel free to ask questions as soon as I zoom in, because this is tiny even for me. Let's just pop this over here. So in this column here, you can kind of see where FY26 was budgeted for. What we are looking at in column E is related to FY27, what the draft budget is looking at, and then we are basing that off of a conservative enrollment number of around 350 kids. Sherry, I don't know if you wanted to speak to like some of the enrollment pieces. I know that's something that you guys were really trying to nail down, and so I feel like 350 from what we were discussing was still a fairly conservative number.
Mm-hmm. I think we felt safer going with the conservative number of 350.
But you already have a lot of you have a wait list and everything kind of currently also.
Yeah.
Okay. So taking a look at your general fund budget, you can kind of see here, taking a look at this first category, which is ultimately kind of summed up here as far as your local income. Last year, local income was budgeted at 92,000. This year, we're looking at 144 for the upcoming year. Obviously, we are taking into account some adjustments, just kind of speaking to the activity that we're seeing for the school store. Also thinking that, there could potentially be an uptake, especially as you also add more kids and more kids maybe participate in the school store kind of option. You see there's a slight increase related to student fees. Obviously kind of speaking to the same component on the increased enrollment. We kind of took that liberty and made some adjustments to a couple of different categories, just knowing that, essentially this budget is looking at adding like an additional, almost 69 kids based off of, where this original budget was budgeted off of. So that kind of shows you the delta for the local income contributions. While other people activities went up slightly, contributions and donations went up slightly, as well as an uptick in fundraising income. Going down into your state revenue, which includes your base funding, as well as your EIA funds, you can
Janara,
see
can
here
I
that.
interrupt?
Yeah, go right ahead.
On the screen is the same financial report that we just finished.
Oh no, I was hoping it was showing the window. Thank you so much for saying something.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me.
It's okay, we were,
I thought
we
for
weren't
sure I had
sure.
shared the window, not the screen. So let me just
thank you.
go back. No worries. Thank you. Let's see, window.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we might be in a better situation there. I had just kind of gone through kind of our local income section here, and you can see, just to do a quick recap, column D is the current year's budget. Column E is the proposed budget for FY27. So we're kind of walking through some of the differences, what some of these totals are, and we can kind of pause for questions. And these numbers up here are definitely kind of related to enrollment. So local income, we have budgeted for FY27 at 144,000 versus 92,000 for the current year. Where we were just about to get into was related to these base funding and any of the other kind of state EIA funds. State aid to classrooms, that number is 4,589,000. Obviously, that's a significant difference. Your biggest revenue driver for that obviously is going to be your enrollment. Now, some considerations that we did take under advisement, just kind of knowing how uncertain things are with the state budget and where we are going to land with the new funding formula. We did take out the vocational weighting as it relates to, I can kind of go over here to the revenue per pupil tab and zoom in so that we can kind of take a look at some of these assumptions so that everybody is kind of clear on what I'm saying. So like typically vocational in this current fiscal year, you used to be able to get a 1.2 for those students. We are budgeting them at a 1.0 because there is a lot of talk about that potentially, that additional 0.2 getting removed for vocational students. So we thought it was a more conservative approach to build our base funding budget off of that. If it ends up to where that's not what happens, we can always go back and take a look and see what ultimately gets approved, but they just take so long to approve that budget. And, we got to definitely do what we can to kind of at least keep the budget process moving. This 4,450 number is a number that we've gotten from the state authorizer, is a good number to budget for next year. Obviously, we'll be paying attention to that in case there's any fluctuations there, but that was the conservative estimate that they gave us so that we could run a sufficient revenue projection for that. So that you can kind of see here, making those adjustments to those weightings, and then taking under consideration the fact that there is the increased enrollment. Like you can see here where that delta is coming from of almost a little more than like 800,000 or close to 800,000. So just wanted to kind of take a second and really make sure everybody understands where we are getting that number from, why it is a conservative number, and we'll just have to kind of do a little bit of wait and see to see what ultimately gets approved in this year's upcoming state budget and what possible adjustments to the funding formula may come from that. Any questions there? I will pause for questions. That was a little bit of a lift. Just want to make sure everybody understands. Okay. Taking a look here, we kind of left our national board certified teacher funding the same at 20,000, and then also for teacher supplies, that number definitely is an uptick. They did not increase the teacher supply amount last year. It stayed at $400 per qualified personnel. I did bump it up to $425 just in case they actually do an increase this year. I don't know if they would not do it 2 years in a row, but we're basically taking that number times the qualifying staff from the salary schedule that we have to kind of back into what we could forecast the teacher supply revenue to be. And so those 3 items are the main items included in your state revenue budget. So like we have that currently budgeted at 4.6 million versus 3.7, almost 3.8 million for this current year. Now I will also add to this, I did mention, and to Sherry, who I'm sure has probably, I think, been in communications with South Carolina Public Charter School District, just because you guys are such a vocationally heavy school. There are usually, there are kind of like CTE funds out there. I don't think you guys actually got an allocation for this year due to not submitting a budget for it, but it would have been funds that you all look qualified for. So just to make sure that the school is on the radar for any potential allocations that may come up for CTE, because part of what they are looking at when it comes to this funding formula is there is a hold harmless clause there. So like you cannot end up any worse off with them changing some of these budget and funding pieces. So wanted to at least make you aware of that, and that the district, it should be on the radar. Sherry, did you talk to them? I think I dropped a bug in their ear about you guys as well, as far as
Are you
any
talking about the
potential
Perkins
CTE
funding?
allocations.
Is that the Perkins funding? Yes, yeah, we've talked to them.
Perfect. So then going into taking a look at what is out there for federal revenue, just in this column here over in column G, we do have just kind of left it flat, thinking that it wouldn't be any less, kind of based off what we've seen for Title I, Title II, and IDEA. We have around 136,000 budgeted, sorry, excuse me, for federal revenue, as that kind of ties in there. So total revenue, you have your general fund, total revenue of 4.7, you have your federal program revenue of 136, and that kind of puts your total revenue at around 4.8, almost 4.9 million dollars, and that is based off of an enrollment projection of 350 kids. Any questions on this, on the revenue section, before we get down into some of the expenditures?
No questions.
Okay, rolling on down into the expenditure pieces, we definitely sat down and had some conversations with Sherry about like what she needed to, our federal pieces do, but the rest of it is covered by the general fund. So kind of just highlighting the general fund, we're looking at around 2.7 million in salaries and fringe as it stands there. So I mean, almost right at teetering close to that 60% of revenue going towards personnel related costs. Sherry, I don't know if you want to get into some of the positions that you added in there and kind of speak to some of those so that we can kind of see, because there's definitely obviously some significant differences, but you really have set yourself up for success with some of the staffing pieces.
Yeah, we have potentially 5 additional teachers to bring on staff, 1 in each content area: math, science, social studies, English, and then a CAPE teacher. So that would take care of the 5. We have one of our in-house teachers currently will shift over and teach some SPED, who just got certified for that, Ms. Thompson. So she'll be doing that. She'll be teaching a couple of SPED classes, so that'll help take the load off of SPED to have that in-house. So we're just shifting some of the services within the building to help adjust to the growth, because we know that we stay right around the 23rd percentile for our students with disabilities. So want to make sure that we have enough staff to cover those kids and to be able to provide them the support that they need. And with that comes, of course, the contractual cost of speech and OT and PT and some of those things too. So we have to consider that as well. But we'll be looking at their data once we can get them after July the 1st. We'll start requesting records and know more of what we're actually getting. We're still tending to play a little bit with staffing. What I've typically done in the past is I add someone extra as long as we can afford it, and then sometimes we don't end up filling that position, and then that's something that we look at as we get into the school year, so that we don't start off overstaffed and have to cut somebody. It's sometimes easier to bring somebody on, so we go ahead and build that position in. and then we determine whether we need it or not, so. Again, haven't had any trouble filling positions, and that's always a good thing.
Any questions there? Comments or concerns before I keep kind of moving down, because we're through personnel, and next I'm kind of headed to to Sherry's point, we're headed down into some of the contracted services. We did make some adjustments here, and there are, I could actually, let me try to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see the notes. Let me know if that's too small. We have the instructional services that, we really kind of dialed into what was being coded versus, you can see it was originally budgeted at 48,000 for last year, but really just kind of looking at the only thing that's kind of going in there is progress learning. So we took that down to 6,500. We do have a budget for some tech services related to some curriculum, online learning software, Adventum, IXL Learning, like those items are kind of budgeted there. And then we have some of the kind of SPED services that were mentioned before. We did kind of do like an uptick as far as psychological services, did actually include some of the learning disability services, and kind of adjusted the speech services once we could kind of see things falling into their correct buckets after some reclassing. Guidance services, we left a little bit higher, but kind of still more so in line at around 16,000 for those budgets. We do show that the audit services through Martin Smith, we have that budgeted currently at 11,000. Legal services, obviously you have your attorneys, so like we do have like just a contingent kind of fees always kind of based out there. That always seems to be a place to where there's a need. I think last year we had budgeted at 39,000, and these numbers are actually annualized through January, so I'm sure there have been some shifts there. So even through January, you guys were at around 23,000. So we just want to make sure that there's enough cushion to cover any of the legal costs out there. Contracted admin services, there was an uptick in there just related to iSolve payroll fees and PowerSchool. Admin rentals, that is the copiers. There is an additional copier lease included, so you can kind of see that they're definitely there are some items in here, but there's a large jump, and that is definitely why. I think there was a need for another copier somewhere else in the building that we needed to account for there. And then district fee is going to be just 2% off of the relevant revenue category. So that's kind of driven by your base funding revenue for the most part. And then you can see fiscal services is budgeted at 55,000. I think that went down, and the reason that went down is because I believe what was originally budgeted for your audit fee actually was lower than what your audit fee dictates. So we did make sure to make that update with this budget cycle. Repairs and maintenance, we are looking at $15,000 budgeted there. Student transportation, marketing and advertising. We took marketing and advertising down significantly. I think we left budget for some Facebook pieces, as well as some signs through a vendor called Mad Scientist. But outside of that, there isn't going to be too much of large marketing advertising services, just kind of based off of what is projected for next year. We do have technology services kind of built out there, and that's just Adobe and Bloom, which is also known as GoGuardian. Put that in parentheses because I thought that I didn't think everybody was familiar with the term, with the name Bloom. And then we have a budget in here for professional development travel. And just kind of took Sherry's guidance from what she thinks may be necessary for there. There's professional development as well as administrative travel as well. And then there is a budget for staff development and training in the general fund piece as well. And there was an uptick there, even though nothing was coded there through the month of January. So all in all, like some of the categories fluctuated a bit, but just looking at it from a macro level, the general fund budget for this current fiscal year was at 377. For the upcoming year, we were looking at around 387, but just making sure that those dollars are allocated where the services are actually occurring and more so in cadence with what those trends look like. Going down into supplies, just kind of taking that from a macro piece, we can see here that current year was budgeted at 147. This year for FY27, the budget draft, we're looking at around 152,000, almost 153. Some of the bigger pieces in there, we've definitely made some adjustments. You can see the downtick in marketing supplies, but obviously with adding new students and adding new staff, we're gonna have to buy some computers. So there are the instructional computers component up here, as well as administrative computers that are also kind of being budgeted for, because we know that they're gonna have to make sure that everybody has all of the equipment that they need. So those are two of the larger pieces. The supplies, we actually kind of took down some just kind of based off of spend. A lot of that gets front loaded. Teacher supplies, that's the pass through for the revenue pieces. Sped, we can see here, there's a couple of different items for, as far as supplies, it did not take all of 30,000. So it's like some of these things we really just kind of trued up to better allocate out based off of where things are. Some of these are just like once a year items. Some of these are smaller recurring items. So we just tried to take a look at that. And when we looked at the trend analysis piece, guidance and health, those are more just like contingency amounts, just to make sure there are amounts there for any type of expenditures that might occur. And then for a lot of the traditional office supplies, we left those flat at 25,000. Going down and taking a look at facilities. So facilities, you can see that the general fund budget for this year was 684,000. That does include 400,000 in interest expense. Well, next year we're going to be paying more interest expense as well as starting to pay back some of the principal pieces. And there is, whenever Sherry, you are able to get this sent out to the board, like we did actually include like the actual debt service components out here, just in case anybody has any questions on like where we're getting those numbers. Like we're taking those kind of directly from the provided amortization schedules from the lenders. So you can see here, interest expense will go from 400,000 for this year to 776,000 for next year, and then there will be some principal that starts to get applied as well at 107,278. Taking that into consideration, like those are the two largest pieces, obviously, because you can see like that's a big jump, and those are the two main reasons why. But even kind of going back into here, we did make some adjustments based off of actuals related to facilities and maintenance for lawn care and our agreement that we have there, as well as figuring out some of the water and sewer cleaning, like the cleaning services, repairs and maintenance. Some of these look a little wonky compared to where we are, just because we have to annualize some of those pieces, and some of those had included one-time costs. So operational supplies, we definitely did a larger uptick there, kind of based off of where everything was through January, and those are the two main vendors being coded there. So like we felt pretty comfortable with that. And then looking at where electric and gas was, obviously we have 81,000 budgeted for that, and then just kind of took down the security system with where that should be based off of annualized costs there. So for facility related costs, and that includes like your debt service as well as far as the building is concerned, that's going to go from 684,000 for FY26 to a little over 1,112,000 for FY27. Pausing there for questions. That was a big jump.
So far, so good, thank you.
Okay. And then we have our transportation supplies. One of those is for gas, which is this line right here. So we do have an increase up there, kind of just based off of usage. We're looking at gas to be at a budget of around 7,500. And then we did keep a contingency kind of supplies and parts for, somebody, you got to replace some type of gasket of some sort. This is about the extent of my auto mechanic knowledge. But in case there's anything that has to happen, we wanted to at least have a contingency budget as it relates to the transportation pieces. So you can see transportation originally was budgeted at around 8,000, and for this current fiscal year, next year we are bumping that up to around 12,500. Going into other related expenses, and those are things like your liability insurance, board expenses, membership dues and fees, bank fees. Like you can see, like all of those had some adjustments. Liability, we actually updated that based off of the actual kind of like premium insurance summary that we were able to receive and tie back to make sure that that was better tied down. Board, other expenses, any type of, food supplies. I think there's a meeting videographer component that now has to be accounted for just to make sure you're compliant with certain requirements there. Membership dues and fees, that's the Alliance fee, Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce, as well as fees for board elections that I believe the Alliance assists you all with. Then we have our bank fees, sales and use tax. And then we have here where you can start to see, here's where we start to have some conversations about athletics. And the athletics that we are taking into consideration, and I kind of put them out here as a note, is volleyball, basketball, cheer, soccer, and golf. So we took a look at what was going to be
We should have
needed
archery.
for athletics.
Janelle, we
Go
should
ahead.
have archery in there as well.
You said archery?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can put it there. Perfect. So you can see here, like anything you see related to the athletic stipends and fringe, as well as any type of athletic services, athletic supplies, like we definitely wanted to make sure that we were accounting for that a little bit better. We kind of talked about that when looking at the February financials. Like you can see that increase in other expenses and pupil-related activity costs, and that's really more so we wanted to make sure we had a good pulse on those items for this upcoming fiscal year. So we have around 40,000 budgeted in total, and that is a new line item. But for athletic stipends and fringe, we have around 20,000 budgeted for services related to athletics. That could be, transporting the athletes to an away game of some sort. Like there could be ref fees or any of those items. Like that's kind of what lives there. And then you have supplies related to athletics. There wasn't any field trip expenditures so far for this year, but I think we wanted to keep us rated. I can kind of maybe hold my mic too if that helps.
That'd be great. I think it's just the mic's having a hard time picking it up.
Okay, perfect. So we are in the home stretch. So we kind of walked through some of the highlighted components related to athletics, whether it be the stipends for the coaches and the staff, helping out with those programs, as well as any outside contracted services related to athletics, as well as supplies related to athletics. Like you can see, those are all kind of new, no prior year amount was allocated, but there is an amount allocated for this year. And as a result, we did shift some of just the regular pupil activity services based off of those pieces and kind of breaking down some of that detail. Like once we kind of pull athletics out into their own line items, regular, just other general pupil related activity services, we budgeted for around like 5,000. We did leave the supplies related to general pupil related activities at 25,000, but then of course added the 20,000 for athletics. So looking at the total for all of the other expenses, prior year, the general fund budget was sitting at around 102,000. What is in the budget draft currently for FY27 is 180,000. So
Budget to 55, are we increasing our coverage, or is that just a premium doubling? Are we getting different types of liability coverage? What's the cost of the doubling of that?
yeah, no, that is a great, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's all I've got.
Oh, I thought somebody else was chiming in. That is a couple of different components. Like there was definitely some pieces where depending on the policy coverages, those premiums change, like it doesn't run, like your premiums don't run July to June, right? Like, so like it could be to where you have premium of one value for a portion of the year and then premium based off of your new building for another portion of the year. And kind of kick it back over to you guys, and just in case there's any other components that you would like me to cover.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, you too. Thank you. All right. Very good. All right, moving forward, we have the principal's report. The full report was sent via email and in the Dropbox as well. And then Sherry, I'll be jump in, and we do have the one item of the
You guys, and just in case there's any.
updated school calendar to discuss, and the copy of that is also in your packet.
The purpose for the updated school calendar is that the South Carolina Charter District wanted some additional pieces added to the calendar, which we didn't have on the last time that we read. They wanted our 45th day, our quarters marked. So we wanted to make sure that we got all that done and then let you all approve it before we send it into them. So it's just changing. It's the actual calendar didn't change, but it's just noting what specific days are.
Anyone have questions about that request? And like Sherry and I talked about it, I mean, technically it's like the interim that you would have in the first semester, halfway through the first semester, halfway through the second semester, just to mark that for students. Okay, very good.
I've been looking at the principal report.
Just one question.
I'm sorry.
I know you did this in black and white, but it is color coded so that they can see.
It is.
Okay.
When kids get it, it's
Yeah.
color
Okay.
online.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
We had some printer issues this week.
We did.
Sorry.
Sherry, can we go ahead? Do we have a motion to approve the updated 2026-27 CHS school calendar? Is there a motion?
So
Grant and Jill is a second?
Yes.
I got you. Okay, great. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Very good. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? All right, no nays, unanimous, the motion passes. Okay.
Okay, just looking at the principal report, we've just changed over to a new format for that we'll continue to follow, and I should have a report to you all every 2 weeks moving forward. So check your emails for that, just to keep you guys abreast of what's going on at the school. And there's lots of stuff going on. Our biggie, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because you've had a chance to read it, so if you have any questions on anything. But our most exciting part is we've got our sign. Our sign is lit. It's beautiful. If you can see it, if it's dark tonight when y'all leave, you will see it. And the other piece is they came last Monday and put in the electric box for the sign that's going to be on the road. And they've mapped out where that's going to be, so we're moving forward with that. So those are the two biggies. The sign that we put on the road will also be used for advertisement. So we're looking forward to being able to generate additional cash by doing some advertisement for people on the sign. If you look through it, our bus, I really think we should talk about the buses. We're talking to some additional sources of busing. We had just this past week, we needed to get our buses inspected. And we spent all week, both buses at Fleet, which we're really fixing every little tiny detailed thing so that they can pass the inspection. It's a yearly inspection. And it rounded out to be about $5,000 for the two buses put together. So it's quite expensive to keep those buses on the road, even with just basic maintenance. And, you know, Benair was talking about a gasket. And, you know, I'm looking at probably some tires, some additional cost with the buses, because that's not been done since I've been here. So I'm assuming that that's probably something that we should check. But the man at Fleet takes very good care of them, and he lets me know when something needs to be done. So we do a regular maintenance on them, but this time we just had to spend the whole week in the bus shop. So, so that was a big cost coming back. We're also gearing up for our senior trip, which is going to be the 1st of May. Our prom is this coming Friday, so we're excited about that. And we're really happy to note that while we based the budget on 250 kids, we're really expecting more like, 350. we're probably we're expecting about 375, but we just felt like it was safer to go with the lower number. It's better to have more than less when you get started. So, while that's a challenge, that's another 100 kids. You do have to adjust with that in the school, and it's just an overall large maintenance piece as the teachers can speak to. But if you want to look through this report, like I said, I'll be sending it to you, just letting you know what's going on throughout the school. Everything from, maintenance, financial issues or concerns, or ways that we're spending money, to just engagement and community things. We are planning our overarching PBL that I know I've spoke to you all about in the past. Last year when we all met at the end of the year, the teachers and I, we all talked about some of our concerns were the fact that people didn't know who we were in the community, and we didn't have a spot that really serviced the community. And now that we do, our goal this year was to, because all PBL starts off with a problem, so we wanted to make sure that we are a part of the community. So what we're going to do with that, how we're getting our kids out into the community and how we're getting people into the building. So we have had monthly visitors. We've done things with bats and wolves and multiple things with Nault that have to do with the land that we're on. But what we're planning is a spring fling type of event. We've not quite got the name of it yet. We talked about it yesterday. Where we're going to have, where we will have vendors, food trucks, and students in classrooms doing things to engage the kids so that they know what's going on in the building. But it's a community event to get everybody out on our property and meeting our teachers and our students. So that's our overarching PBL goal for this year, which is a huge event. And Haley's got everything planned. And so we're going to have a petting zoo and all kinds of fun stuff. For kids. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And some of those, some of the students' jobs, because we know we need to let people know, they'll be creating flyers, going into the neighborhoods, passing out flyers, much like we did when we were moving in here. The students are responsible for getting the word out as well. So everybody has a job. So we're really looking forward to it.
Any other questions?
So I'll keep you all posted through this document.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this is, and under instruction, it's 43 days of 180 left. Is
I
that
know.
I'm telling you, I think the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Who's counting?
143 you have,
Oh.
that's way too many.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sherry. All right, next item on the agenda, board committee reports. There are none for this month. Next item, unfinished business. There is none listed there as well. And the next item leads us to our risk management assessment with Dr. Brian Carpenter.
Okay, we've got to do something here, y'all.
Okay.
So I'm hearing that from a member of the public and also from Nick, that for whatever reason, the people on the screen are not being heard in the live broadcast. So can we get Dr. Carpenter to call in on speaker, perhaps? Is that a possibility?
Looks like he fell off.
He fell off.
He's up
Yeah.
there anyway.
Rita, he sent me a message that he
Did
had to
he-
leave. He thought he would be
Did he leave the meeting?
sooner on the agenda. So
Okay.
he's no longer
So we can add him to next month? Okay, so we're gonna skip Dr.
Okay.
Carpenter this month. He is not able to stay
Okay,
in the meeting, so we will add him to next month's
all right.
agenda. Very good. Okay, so then that moves us to the new business. We have the audit engagement letter for 2025-26 audit with Martin Smith. A copy of that contract is in your packet. And is there a motion to approve the audit engagement letter with Martin Smith CPAs for the 25-26 financial audit?
Was this the same provider as last year?
It is the
This
same, yes.
Long-standing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and as Janara mentioned, it ended up being less than we had expected or budgeted, so that's always a good thing. Okay, yeah. Any questions about that contract? Okay, do we have a motion to approve that engagement letter with Martin Smith? Christine, do we have a second?
Second.
Latonya? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? No nays. All right, so that was approved unanimously. Very good. All right. Next item on the agenda are the bank signatories update letter. We had addressed this at a previous meeting. Anderson Brothers Bank had required a specific verbiage for the approval. So we are going to, we need a motion to approve the signatories for all school-held bank accounts. So that way we have one item for all of our banks. So, would you be willing to make a motion there?
What are we?
It's a move to designate, as we had approved before, for the board chair, the principal, and the treasurer to be signatories on all school-held bank accounts. And it was not specific enough, so we need a more specific statement. So principal there, with titles listed as well. Does that make sense?
Titles and names.
Titles and names in the entire motion. And I can pass that one down to Grant. This was from Dr. Carpenter from his visit with the risk assessment. It's the bottom one suggested that he helped coordinate with the Anderson Brothers Bank. Okay.
So I move that the board designate the following directors and officers as signatories to the school-held bank accounts. Rita DiPolito, Chair, Sherry Oskin, Principal, Nancy Poole, Treasurer.
Okay. Do we have a second for that item? Clay, seconds. Is there any discussion, any other questions? Did that help clarify that? Yep, okay, great. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? No nays, motion carries. Very good. All right, next item on the agenda is the executive session. Do we have a motion to go into executive session at 7:18 p.m.?
I'll make a motion.
Christie makes the motion. Do we have a second? Latonya. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Very good. We are now in executive session.
So let the record show that no actions were taken during executive session. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session at 8:41 p.m.?
So moved.
A second. Grant makes the motion. Clay seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. It's unanimous. So we will adjourn the meeting at 8:42 p.m.
Now we need to move to adjourn.
Yes.
No,
That's, the motion was to come out. We don't need to move
no,
to
he's,
adjourn.
according to Dr. Carpenter,
That's right.
Sounds good.